Our goal is not just to build a project, it's to build a relationship. And when we build a relationship with a customer, they tell all their friends and family about how much they enjoyed working with you, the result, and also how well they felt throughout all of this. Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. I'm going to share with you this week one of the easiest ways to stop the pain that happens on each project with clients who have expectations that you didn't even know about when you first started. If you don't know it by now, this is going to be an episode about setting expectations. You'll hear me talk a lot about that. Setting expectations in a relationship is the key fundamental basis that you need to do very early in the process. If you don't, it's going to come up and rear its head at some point in the project and potentially cost you tons of time, a good relationship with a customer, and or tons of money. So I'm going to give you a scenario today, and hopefully you guys can reflect and think about this process and how you manage this process with your projects and your clients. So if Mrs. Jones is expecting a 2 to 3 week long project because, well, possibly that's what you told her. Or maybe that never came up and she just expects it for no apparent reason. We don't know where she gets her ideas from. She's also thinking that throughout the entire project, she's going to be able to park her car in the garage like she's always done. She's actually given it no thought, but she's thought, okay, well, I'm going to hire these guys. They're going to charge me a lot of money, and I'm still going to go on with my daily life with no real big interruptions. So she's thinking it's going to be a very minimal interruption when you build the project for her backyard, that it's going to be a very minimal interruption for her and her family. But what actually happens is very different, because on the other side of that, there is you. Thinking as a, design build professional, that you're thinking, you know what, I'm thinking it's probably going to take 3, 4, 5 weeks to do this project, depending on the weather and other projects and how I can divert the guys and get them on there and how long I can keep them on there and all the stuff that goes on in the world of outdoor living construction. So you're thinking probably 4 to 6 weeks for this project. You never know what the weather is going to do, right? Also, you're thinking, okay, well, obviously we're going to use the driveway as our main access point for this project. It's the easiest path. Everybody knows that. It's very simple. And also, there's going to be mud on the driveway and that, come on, guys, we're digging in the backyard. So you're thinking all those things are pretty normal. But in Mrs. Jones's mind, she's thinking a much different. So she has a much different set of expectations, 2 to 3 weeks. She can use her driveway and garage like any other day, and it's going to be a minimal interruption in her schedule. Can you guys start to see what starts to happen here? So let's just play this out. So here's what happens from your client's perspective. So they get home after working all day long to be able to afford this amazing new backyard. And they get home and they're like, you know what? I just want to do what I normally do, which is let the dog run outside, run around, do his business, come back in, let the kids go outside and play because they're all been pent up at school all day. They just want to go out and play. But here's the problem. They look out into the backyard and they see like a bomb went off. They see equipment all there. They see materials there. They see mud and big piles of dirt. You guys are knee deep in this project and doing exactly what you're supposed to do. But Mrs. Jones gets home and she's thinking, oh man, now I'm stuck in my house. I've got these kids that are running around like crazy. They're got tons of energy. I've got a dog that's got to go to the bathroom that now I have to put on a leash and walk him outside. Man, this is not fun. I wasn't expecting this. Even though from our perspective, that we're like, this is what happens on a project. Duh, don't you know that? But from the client's perspective, it's different. And I challenge you during this podcast to start thinking from your client's perspective, not just yours. So also the client's thinking, it's not even safe for me to let my pets or my kids out in the backyard. They're going to be dragging mud in the house left and right. And this house is already tough to clean, and I've already got so much stress in my life at work. When I get home, the last thing I want to do is be mopping floors all the time and cleaning dogs and washing them and doing extra loads of laundry because all the mud, kids, they love to play in the mud. So we have to be thinking from their perspective. And man, I can't say this enough. Clients have certain sets of expectations that unless we're very diligent in being good detectives through our discovery and sales process to uncover some of these expectations, if we don't do that, it's a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. When she's coming home and she just wants to take her car after a long day and pull into the garage and get out and walk into the house like she always does. But when she gets home, instead, she sees either equipment or tons of mud in the driveway or something blocking her way, and she's forced then to park in the street and then look in and say, all right, no big deal. I'll just park in the street for a couple of days. And then it's a couple of weeks. Think about it. This starts to build up inside of her. And it could be him too. I'm just using Mrs. Jones. She's awesome. It could be Mr. Jones. It really doesn't matter. It could be both of them. My point is your clients have these unsaid expectations that it is our job as sales professionals to start uncovering early in our process so we can alleviate some of the pressure in this ever building pressure tank that's going to eventually go off. So also, kids now they got to pack the kids up and they got to put them in the car, take them over to a friend's house to play or to the park, which is another huge inconvenience. That's why they bought the house in the beginning. Can you guys get a sense of what that homeowner might be feeling? Also, she starts thinking, well, this guy told me he'd be out in 2 or 3 weeks. And you know what? What happened? Like, even if they didn't tell you 2 to 3 weeks, she just thinks it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks to do this project. You're thinking 4 to 6. She's thinking 2. Now we've got ourselves another problem. What happened in her mind? And it's building. The pressure is building. The frustration is building. I thought this was going to be an easy in and out project. Now all of a sudden they've been here for weeks. This is crazy. I would just want my life back. Have you guys ever heard your clients say that or ever feel that from your clients? Because at the end of the day, when that project is complete, and then you go, here's the nail in the coffin. The project is done. You hand them the final bills. And in your contract, it clearly states if you hit rocks, bigger boulders, whatever, that you're going to charge them for that extraction and removal from site. And it happened on this site. As you're digging through, you found for the patio, you found 2 boulders that just had to go. So you could get them out with a machine, thank goodness, and loaded them on a truck while the homeowners were at work. Got rid of those, went and dumped them off and came back. But that all took extra time, and it's in your contract clearly stated that you will charge extra for that. But they weren't here, so you just got it done, no big deal. And the next thing you know, it's time to walk up to that client after 4 to 6 weeks of work and hand them the bill, which has that extra, quote unquote, unforeseen boulder additional charge, change order in there. And then you go to hand it to them. So let's play this back. It's been 4 to 6 weeks. She's expecting 2 to 3. She's already starting to get really frustrated because now her life has been altered in a way that she has to walk from the street. She's got mud in her house. She's got dogs with mud. She's taking her kids places just to keep them entertained and out of her hair. She's a busy professional. All of these things, all to get a bill at the end for an additional couple $1,000s for you to extract these boulders and get them off site. And she had no idea of that was even happening. What do you think her reaction is going to be? Bill, boom. The next thing you know, she's sitting here thinking, this guy's trying to take advantage of me. I can't believe this. He or she has no idea of all the stress that I just went through in this last 4 to 6 week segment. It's a lot longer than it should have been. And they keep saying weather was the problem, but it wasn't because it was sunny every day, even though it rained every night. They don't know. So I say all of this because if you're starting to resonate with this story and think, I've had clients say, do exactly those things, because I know I sure have. What I learned along the journey is that if we don't set expectations about all of the things I mentioned early in our process, that starts from the initial call through the discovery call process and sales process, all the way into when you actually sell the project and set expectations for what is and isn't going to happen on site. If those things aren't being done purposefully by a checklist to make sure you don't miss them each and every time, you are just leaving space for those things to start building, and exploding within your customer. Our goal is always to have an incredible customer experience for our clients so they not just love the final result, but also love the experience along the way, because it's not what your clients see at the end that gets them excited. It's how you made them feel throughout this entire process. That's the part, that's the emotional connection that they're going to go out and tell all their friends about. To have an amazing backyard and a really crappy experience, they'll be like, yeah, the experience wasn't all that great, but look at the result. And anybody listening, any potential future referral listening is going to be like, oh man, do I really want to go through the pain in order to get this? But on the other side, if you can match up an excellent client experience by setting expectations early in your process and throughout your process to alleviate the pressure from that tank that's constantly building of frustration, if you can alleviate that and know how to do that step by step, the next thing you know, that customer at the end loves the result and felt something amazing throughout. And when that combination comes together, my friends, that's when you start getting more referrals. And those referrals and every referral after that will be nice and warm, which means you don't have to take them through a really deep, intense sales process to try to get them on board. They're already ready to go. You just need to walk them through and check all the boxes to make sure they know what's coming next. Think about that. Our goal is not just to build a project, it's to build a relationship. And when we build a relationship with a customer, they tell all their friends and family about how much they enjoyed working with you, the result, and also how well they felt throughout all of this. And that only happens from a purposeful sales conversation and communication from the very beginning all the way through the entire process and project. So if you're not doing that now currently, you are missing a massive opportunity for more 5-star reviews, more referrals, again, warm leads that are ready to go. But you need to have a step-by-step process. You cannot be winging this each and every time, because with winging as an option, you're going to hit some out of the park, and other times you're going to be striking out left and right. And then you'll hit a few, and then you'll strike out a bunch. Sound familiar? If it is, it's because you don't have a systemized step-by-step sales process in place. Once you do, it changes the game. You approach each project very similarly, and you always make sure you go through each of the pieces so the clients aren't left open. You know how it is. Sometimes you go into a sales meeting and you're like, well, yeah, they already understand that. Obviously, I don't have to go through that part of the conversation. Maybe it's about budget. Well, of course, they've got like a $10 million house here. Like, why would I need to talk about budget? They obviously got money. Think about that. That has to happen each and every time. We can't avoid it. When you're winging your sales, you're going to wing those things because you don't feel like doing those things at that time. But with a step-by-step process, that's part of the process. That's step number 6. And step number 6 happens to everybody. So you don't have to worry about it being thrown out because you don't feel like it. That's the cool part about having systems. Now, what's important is that you understand that this is not something that happens immediately. It's something that takes time, just like going to the gym. That's really what it's about. It's about learning, doing things a little different than you've done before. If the industry average for closing outdoor living projects is 20 to 30%, I hear it all the time, 20 to 30%. In order to get us to 50, 60, 70, dare I say 80+% closing rate, we got to change the way we look at communication and sales. It is not something we need to do to get the job. It becomes the center of all we do, because when that's done right, everything else works out so much smoother. Setting expectations, delivering on them. But it's a matter of knowing which ones you need to set, how to set them, and to make sure that your clients are on board with that. Because let's face it, folks, not every customer is a good customer. Just because they got a checkbook doesn't mean you got to bring them through. It is important to pick the ones that are grateful, that love your systems and processes that you have in place, and that are willing to play the game as you move through so they can get the best result and you can have the best experience too. It's not just about them having a good experience. It's about you and your team feeling better after that project than when you first started. And I don't mean feeling better in a sense of you got more money. It's about making sure you know you're doing a much bigger service to the world than just making money. But certain customers see that and value that, and they're willing to pay more. And others don't. It's a numbers game for them. And those guys are the first ones you want to give the graceful exit to and let them go on to somebody else who eventually hopefully learns this process and won't say yes to them either. So I say all those things because with a process in place, you're going to find yourself much more confidence. You're going to not be thinking in your head, because what happens, most salespeople get stuck in their head. They're thinking the entire time like, oh boy, I got to ask this question, then I got to do this. And if they say that, I got to do this. And they're stuck in their head. And then a customer says stuff, and you know the worst part? The salesperson doesn't even hear it. They're not listening. They may hear the words, but they're not listening, because in their head, they're trying to think of what they're going to say next. When you have a process in place, you have a 10-step process in place, you know you went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, and you can listen because you don't have to think about that. All that running around in your head has now been laid out in a process that works, and you don't have to be winging it anymore. So guys, if you want help with laying out a process for yourselves and your company so you can grow, scale, become more profitable, and also take the pressure off of constantly winging this thing we call sales, if you want to learn step by step how to do this well so you can serve clients and not trying to sell them all the time, book a call. That's what we do here at Yes Express. I'd love to listen about what you got going on in your business and how you can implement this, adding like gasoline to a fire. Because think about it, if you can get more yeses in the front door and you've got a great operation to build, think about how much more powerful your company could be in the market, and also how much more peace you could find inside without having to constantly feel like I got to come up with this new saying or this new way of winging it to a client and hope like heck and keep your fingers crossed each and every time that you meet with a client that they're actually going to do something. Imagine if you had an 80 or 90% surety when you left your office that this client was going to become a client of yours, and not have to guess and keep your fingers crossed and think maybe 2 or 3 out of 10. Let's change that together as an industry, guys. Let's start to focus on this concept of sales and communication as being the center of what you focus on. And then the build becomes second nature and second part. Because without the communication, without profitable pricing, this entire thing, what are we doing? What are we doing with our time? Are we just building stuff so we can take pictures of it? Or are we honestly going out there trying to change lives? If you're looking to change lives, learn how to serve people, not just sell them, and you want a step-by-step process that sets all those expectations early so that you can just fly through with your crews and do an amazing job and get a 5-star review, go down to the show notes and book a call.